Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look in the Fifth Frontier War Fleets of the Minor Powers. Now I'm doing this a little different. I really enjoyed this offering from Mongoose. It's new as about a week and a half ago. And I'm a little late getting these out because we were here at my house. We were in the heart of the derecho that hit the Chicagoland area. Would have been last week as of the airing of this video. We fortunately took no damage, but we had a tornado pass to north and south of our house, and there's a ton of damage around the area. So I've been a little slow getting some of the stuff to the table, and I'll try to do better if Mother Nature will cooperate and quit picking on us. But anyway, the Fifth Frontier War Fleets of the Minor Powers. I really enjoyed this book. What I'm going to do is one or two videos of special parts of the book I really liked, and then I'm going to take a look at the overall thing in a future video. So just doing something a little different, but I really liked this book. This was actually one I was excited about because honestly I feel that the Fleets of the Minor Powers are a little more relatable, a little more playable for the characters than the big Jordani ships and the big Imperial fleets and everything. And there's some nice stuff in here that you can throw into a lower power game. So today we're going to take a look at antimatter weaponry of the Darrians. Right, the part I'm going to look at is under the High Guard Darrian for the High Guard Darrian Confederation. So it's under their High Guard section, and it's the antimatter bomb. I love Darrian stuff because it's tech level 16. It's stuff you don't ordinarily see in Traveler. It's cutting edge, and I like antimatter in Traveler, and I realize it's been around in other iterations, but I was pretty excited when I read this. So the antimatter bomb. Darrian experiments with antimatter are very far from producing a stable and reliable energy source, but uncontrolled release of energy are much easier. The antimatter bomb is still somewhat unreliable, but when it detonates it can be devastating. The bomb consists of a small reactor that generates a quantity of antimatter and a containment system which prevents it from immediately interacting with matter of the device. Once the process has begun, the bomb will contain live antimatter, which will at some point begin interacting with matter. This can be triggered by switching off the containment field, or else it will occur naturally within a few minutes. Matter and antimatter then annihilate one another in an uncontrollable reaction, generating massive amounts of energy in the process. An antimatter bomb displaces 5 tons and has variable effects. At present, efforts to weaponize these devices are rather crude, although the present conflict might provide opportunities to refine the concept. There are 2 versions currently in use. The first is useful mainly as a demolition device or booby trap, and is carried aboard some special armed vessels to be emplaced by ground personnel. The second is an oversized missile which can be carried in a jettisonable container/launcher. This consumes 7 tons and 1 hardpoint. The antimatter missile moves as fast as a conventional missile and might be launched as part of a salvo in the hope that other missiles will attract defensive fire. This is unlikely given the dimensions and emissions of the weapon, so these missiles are really only useful for finishing off crippled vessels or destroying an installation whose defenses are down. However, experimentation has shown that antimatter missiles can be useful defensively. When detonated, an antimatter bomb spews particles at random over a period of 1 die combat rounds. This is accomplished by a burst of radiation, which wipes out most sensors. All electronics, sensors, checks suffer die modifier -4 for the duration of the burst, and missiles lose their targeting lock. Anything within or entering the antimatter cloud suffers 1 die 6 times 1 die 6 damage per round until the cloud dissipates. So you could roll 2 6s and you could have 36 points of damage going into the ship. If fired into the path of a missile salvo, an antimatter bomb will destroy 2 die times 10 missiles, providing an effective, if expensive, counter to Sword World saturation missile attacks. Creative uses may also be discovered as the conflict develops. One possibility is firing an antimatter bomb into a gas giant's atmosphere to clear mines or to create a pulse which can be used to detect lurking warships. I really like this little bit of tech that we have our hands on in this. Antimatter weapon, here we have the antimatter bomb, tech level 16, range is only close, 0 power, 1 die times 1 die per round damage. The cost is 20 megacredits. Traits are radiation, and then the antimatter missile, tech level 16, range is long, power 0, 1 die times 1 die per round. 23 megacredits, and radiation is also a trait. I can see a lot of story being developed around just this one device, not the least of which could be your players, for whatever reason, have gotten their hands on some of the tech or some of the blueprints for making it, and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder. They're going to try to retrieve the data and get it back to the Darrians. They're going to try to retrieve it and get it to the Imperial fleet, the Imperial Navy, and help there. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I like this a lot. I like the idea of just something that does persistent damage to the ship, because keep in mind, while this thing is still doing its damage, you can also have other weapons going at the ship, so you could get a ship into jeopardy pretty quick if you can get one of these through. I love the idea that it can throw up just basically a cloud of jamming radiation and blow up a bunch of missiles. 2 die times 10 missiles, that's at least 20 missiles. That's going to take out a good sized salvo. This will be my duration. Duration is going to be 6 rounds, and my damage is going to be 4 times 5 is 20. 20 points for 6 rounds. For my mind, I would say that during the 6 rounds, because the antimatter is actually affecting the ship itself, it wouldn't matter where the ship moved. I would let the reaction continue on with the ship, just to give this weapon some teeth. So I don't want to be able to hit it and then they zoom out of it like it's a cloud of sand, and they can just get out of it and everything's fine. So that would be the way I would rule it. So I haven't done this at the table yet. I probably will in a very soon future game, in the very near future, but I like some of the ideas that I had when reading this, which is why, of course, I wanted to do this video. So let me know what you think. Is this going to make it to your table? Are you going to have your players have one of these? I don't think my players are. Well, in the active duty campaign, they might, but they're definitely not going to have one with their murder hobos, because that's just too much efficient murder hoboing for my taste. But that's all I've got to say for today. I will be taking a look at another part of this book, and then eventually I will take a look at the entire overall book. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to continuing to read it and getting to more tasty bits. So that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.